In terms of the impact of it, the impact of device fragmentation probably is felt most acutely for the developers of more sophisticated games. These things tend to push the hardware a bit more and try and squeeze a bit more performance out of the hardware and use the new functionality, etc. And it happens even in a PC environment. Developers like to write applications which, for instance, take advantage of a high-spec graphics card, if there happens to be one there. So it's not an uncommon problem. It's a problem. It's an issue in the fixed world as well. And it's because games tend to push the hardware more. There's a lot of far simpler applications where some of these some of the issues with porting applications across different OS are far less of an issue. So if a developer has written a game, say for an iPhone platform, and he's considering porting it into an Android environment or into, say, a Symbian environment, there's a number of considerations to go through, starting off with whether it's possible to port it. Can the target hardware support the application? And it could be simple things like whether the phone's a touchscreen, or whether they've got keyboards, or whether they've got accelerometers, whether they've got GPS. These are big binary things. If the phones haven't got some of those things, then there are some applications they just can't run. There's a cost of adapting hardware for a particular device. There's the expected sales on the new device based on the sales and experience to date. There's the expected ongoing revenue and revenue life cycle, etc., based on experience to date. There's adjustments to take account of the geographic distributions of handsets, etc. So if you're looking at sales, etc., of iPhone applications, and you're thinking of porting that onto a Symbian environment, the distribution of those phones around the world and the wealth of the people who are using them is very different, and the skews in terms of the weight of countries that are using them. So you might expect a lower average revenue per application, per sale. So all those things have to be taken into account. And effectively, it becomes a business case and investment decision to rewrite an application across a range of OS and target device types. And it has to be a business case decision. There are just pulled out some different industry views on fragmentation. This is Steve Jobs and Ian and TweetDeck came up last week. So Steve said, he was talking about the multiple hardware and software iterations present developers with the daunting challenge. Many Android applications work only on selected Android handsets running selected versions, and this is for handsets that were shipped less than 12 months ago. And he was talking about TweetDeck. And the guy who runs TweetDeck said, we don't think it's a nightmare. It just isn't a problem. We only got 2 people developing Android on TweetDeck. Dave Roberts, CEO of PopGap, I spoke to a couple of weeks ago, and I'll note that Twitter and TweetDeck is something which has fairly low requirements of a phone environment. It's not too much of a difficult and sophisticated thing to run. That's probably why they're less concerned about fragmentation. Dave Roberts runs a gaming, PopCap. It runs, it develops games, etc. His view is that it's probably too soon to tell, but we probably need 4 to 5 reference buckets, is what he called them, to support Android in terms of testing art and programming. And that was against, I think for Java, he was talking about 8 or 12 reference buckets and about 300 or 400 different tailorings of those. There it is. It's the last bullet. So the views on fragmentation vary across the industry, but it does seem to be driven by the complexity of what those people are trying to do. For simpler tasks, it is less of an issue. In terms of overcoming fragmentation, there are a number of initiatives to combat the effects of device fragmentation. There's the WAC, the Wholesale Application Community, which includes Jill and Bondi. Those are, well, Jill it basically relates to browser widgets. So that's an application which runs in a browser. So the browser is the runtime environment. So it uses, it effectively overcomes fragmentation by running through the browser. And Bondi is handset API standardization to help get standardized access to various handset functionality, etc. And they aim to develop that into a common standard for widget-based applications, except they don't want to call them widgets anymore. They call them sort of network applications, I think is what they're starting to call them. So 24 leading telecommunications operators formed that. Another 32 joined a couple of weeks ago. And since then, apparently quite a number of new applications just to join this group have been submitted. So the idea is that every phone has a browser. If something's written, if an application is written to run in a browser environment, it can run on every phone. But you know what? There's browser fragmentation because there's Opera and there's Firefox and there's Safari and Android and there's I think there's 15 other default browsers and 19 user installable browsers, and there's a bit of double counting there, but there's a lot. So even that is running into a fragmentation problem. However, I expect that as WAC develops, the widgets will be able to perform an increasing proportion of the array of things that you would want to write on a mobile phone. So it's squeezing the types and roles and functions that become most suitable for native applications, to a smaller core, I would say. Others are taking an alternative approach to the problem. So Tech Mahindra are working on software which will translate applications between incompatible OS environments. So they're looking at things which would, so if something's written in, particularly for Android, they're developing an engine which can actually take that and port it across to different operating systems. And actually to do that can actually involve quite a lot of manual work up front. So it's not as automatic a translation process as they might like to suggest. Nokia is seeking to use Qt, and that's it's a similar sort of approach to Adobe and CS and Appcelerator and Matismo and Notobi, which is that they have their own environment. You write your code, and then it's compiled into multiple OS, and theoretically works in those OS. Of course, it still has to be tested in those multiple OS and maintained in those multiple OS. The other thing is that the companies that sell these things tend to sell them for a fair amount of money. It's not a cheap solution. The applications still have to be tested and debugged in the individual handset environments, and the application maintenance must consider multiple environments. Although some of these cross compilers have tools which help manage these. Help manage these applications in multiple environments. One other thing which